All right. Welcome to the Game Store Guy podcast, or should I say Game Store Guys podcast, because I have Game Trade Greg here with me today again. Thank you, Greg, for being here. This is episode 128 for me, and let's just jump into it. So, Greg, why don't you know what? It's been a while. Why don't you tell everybody where your store is located and all that stuff? Because
Sure. First of all, thanks, man. I love doing this. I appreciate you getting me back on and just reaching out because it's always a blast. So I own a video game store as well. You're in Ohio. I'm in Wisconsin.
Yep.
We're just south of Green Bay. So there's a little town called De Pere, and it's basically a suburb of Green Bay. Like Green Bay never ends. It's the southernmost kind of suburb of Green Bay, I guess. I don't think it's technically a suburb, but whatever. So I got that's where I nestled my store. When I opened it originally, it's because there was nobody else around that area. So I thought, I'll take this area and leave the other Green Bay stores alone, let them do their thing, because I was impeding on their turf. And then, and the rest is history. But that was so technically the store's in De Pere, but Green Bay. Think of it as Green Bay, Wisconsin. Big Packer backer area up there. So,
all right, cool. So how's it like? All right, it's been maybe 2 months since I talked to you last. How's everything going? Everybody healthy? Everybody, you staying good there? All your employees, everybody's doing okay?
Yeah, we've been good. We've been really lucky. I'm lucky. I've got really smart, responsible employees too. We don't really have part-time help. I have one girl who works part-time, just on Sundays. But for the most part, everyone there is full-time. So everyone's responsible. Everyone's good. Everyone's safe. We did, one of our people, the part-timer did get COVID, but she got it away from us, she hadn't been in contact with us for a while. So it was nice. It didn't result in any of us having direct contact. It was over the holidays when she hadn't worked anyway. So so that was unfortunate. She made a full recovery though. She's good and she didn't really have a lot of symptoms. So that was nice. She didn't have a bad time with it, but thankfully it didn't cause any shutdowns. We've had a few, close calls where the significant other of somebody who works had a close call, so then they had to get a test, and then if they had it, then we would have had to get tested. So thankfully it never got that far. And we've been really lucky. How about you?
We've been likewise. We've been lucky. My business partner, his daughter got it, but able to keep her quarantined off. And other than that, my wife had something that really seemed like COVID. I should say she never had a COVID test, but they treated her for COVID. She never went out. I kept her pretty isolated in our house. And it was pretty funny how I just I suited up whenever I had to give her food and stuff like that. And double, triple masks and all that fun stuff. She wasn't too bad, but it was like a bad flu for her. So she was off of work for a few weeks. But we were able to keep her. She stayed in our room. I never would go in there except to give her stuff. So I had to take care of her. So we just kept it safe that way. But other than that, I'm going to knock on wood here. We've been good. Business has been good except for a few things. I was going to talk to you. How's your business doing? How's business going?
Business is mental, man. I don't know. So last year we were closed for 6 weeks, and then we did curbside for 4 weeks, and that was a huge detriment to the business, obviously being closed. Right. Curbside did nothing for us. Curbside was if I had to survive in survival mode, curbside only worked for survival mode, but certainly not prosperous. So that was like 10 weeks of lost revenue, Then we talked about actually around this time, I closed for Black Friday and for Christmas. We ended up finishing the year almost identical to the year before. We would have crushed the year before if we hadn't been closed all that time. So our business, what we were closed, we made up for over the 10 months, this last 10 months. And I don't know about you, but the store's been bonkers, almost to a point where I don't want to say this in a bad way necessarily, but it's almost like it wasn't fun. I never opened this store to be as busy as my busiest GameStops were, and to be stressed all the time, to be pushed to the max all the time. That was never the point. The point was to chill and have fun and make some money on the side, unfortunately, like the success now is, and I'm not complaining about success at all, but you know, it's kind of it's been more stressful, which wasn't something I was necessarily expecting. But
we are actually up for the year quite a bit, but I didn't close as much as you did.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit more open. We did do curbside for a little while, but yeah, you can't sustain on curbside. That was just a way to survive for a while. And I feel for like restaurants and stuff that had to do that stuff because there's no way they were surviving doing that. And yeah, so we are up. My only issue is like lately I can't get stuff traded in because of like the issues with like PS5 and Xbox Series systems. I was hoping, you know, as these new systems come out, as people were getting them, they would be trading in their old systems, and it's just not happening. I'm not getting PS4s, I'm not getting Xbox Ones, and then I can't even get them new. My distributors are having a hard time getting them, so I just like the lack of systems is starting to. It's really annoying because I swear half my calls are just looking for used older systems. And I can't get them. Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely. Like that's wild. So yes, in January, I ran the January numbers compared to 2020, January 2021, we did like 50% more business. That's crazy. For being in business for 10 years, you don't typically do 50% growth months anymore. Like that's not
right.
That's the exception, not the rule. And so we did a 50% increase over last year. And our system wall, so we actually take our used systems like our 64s and our Genesis systems and everything. If they don't have their original packaging, we actually put them in like a little white mailer box. We cut the top off and we shrink wrap that. So like every system's displayable on a shelf, and we have a wall that's just our systems. So like we'll have 3-4 deep 64s, GameCube, Super Nintendos. We have almost nothing on that wall. We've got, I think, 4 Sega Genesis systems left, 2 NESs, which I used to have 100 NESs in the back. I'm down to like 2. We're out of Wii's. Mental. We're out of Wii's. We have like 1 360, 1 PS3, no Xbox Ones, no PS4s, no Switches. It's unreal.
It is
selling, and totally agree with you on the trade front. When I ran the same numbers for January, while we were up 50%, we were down like 30 or 40% in trades compared to the year prior. And I hate that because obviously trades are like the fuel for the engine of our stores. And so it's just, I just think it's that time though, like more people are buying than selling because everyone's got a little more money in their pocket. And so we're just not seeing that.
Well, also too, because of COVID, everybody's stuck at home. There's not as much to do. So like video games are like, it's an acceptable form of entertainment for everybody. So yeah, I'm seeing the same thing, man. I'm having trouble. N64s, I just can't keep in stock. The second I get one, they're gone. Everything. I mean, I only have a handful of NESs, but yeah, like you, they're going. Genesis is the one system I seem to be able to keep in stock. People just don't collect Genesis. It hurts me personally because I'm a Sega fanboy. I was a Sega fanboy growing up.
100%.
But nobody, for the most part, doesn't collect Sega, which is weird. But they do Dreamcast and Saturn. You can't keep that stuff in stock. Sega CD is hard to keep in stock, but Sega Genesis, nobody cares.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if you've run into this. So, because you've been open longer than I have. So we've been open 10 years. And over a course of 10 years, you accumulate some really weird stuff. Like stuff that's been sitting there for probably years that like no one would ever touch. Are you selling that stuff too? We're selling some of the dumbest stuff that I've been sitting on for 5 years.
Actually,
and someone comes in and just pulls it off a shelf.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you if you had any weird things. That was one of my things I wrote down because I had one of the weirdest interactions with a customer. Like, it actually was yesterday. A guy came in and he was looking for Shaq Fu. And so we had 2 of them on Sega Genesis. And he's like, I'll take both. And I'm like, okay. Why are you buying Shaq Fu? And he said he collects Shaq Fu. He has a Shaq Fu collection, and he said he currently has about 38 Genesis Shaq Fus. So this was going to put him to 41, and he had like 20 something for Super Nintendo. The weirdest collection I've ever seen. And I didn't bring this up at the time because I didn't want to like poo poo on his collection.
Right.
But I was, after he left, I was talking to the guy Derek who works with me. I was like, isn't this I should have brought up the Retron 5 thing. Have you ever popped Shaq Fu in the Retron 5?
No, I haven't.
If you pop it in the Retron 5, it has a big frown face and it says, "Are you sure you want to play this?" we recommend another game.
That's funny. I did that. That's really funny.
Yeah. If you pop in Shaq,
Easter egg built into the
onto. So whoever made the Hyperkin or whatever, they do not like Shaq Fu. So I think there's one other game that does that, but I didn't bring that up. But it's just such a weird collection to me. Have you ever had anybody have some weird collections or anything like that?
Yes, and I want to say I've had the exact same thing. I've had someone who was buying. What was he buying? It was an NES game. I think it was Dragon Warrior, and he was buying every copy of Dragon Warrior he found. And he was like, he showed me a picture where he literally made a throne. He had hundreds, and he made like a chair that he could sit in and Dragon Warriors. And I'm like, hey, dude, I don't know.
Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, I that's what I always say. There's no wrong way to collect. It's just your way. It's your way or someone else's way, and there's nothing's wrong with either way. But like, I've had people come in who literally come in and buy the worst games that they've ever heard of. So any game that like a YouTuber is pissed on, like they'll come on and be like, yeah, I need E.T., I need, Jekyll and Hyde for NES. They just start and Superman 64. They just buy these shitters, and then that's their collection. And I'm like, hey, more power.
I have a group of guys that come in and they go straight to our. We have a PlayStation 2 section that's like $10 and under, and it's like it's alphabetized, but it's like 4 bins full of like the PlayStation games, and they just they close their eyes and they randomly grab one. And then that's what they have to play. Like, it's a group of 4 guys, and then I think they YouTube it and all that stuff, but it's pretty funny. So they just randomly grab a game, which is kind of funny. So what else is going on? Like, I saw you personally sold your Amiibo collection.
Yeah. So, and actually, it used to be right on the wall behind me where all that white space is.
I see that.
Like, so I had started collecting when they first came out, and I was buying every one, and it was a cool collectible. And part of the reason I bought it was when they first started coming out, Nintendo hadn't done a lot of toys and collectibles. And I thought it's really neat to have like a uniform figure of every Nintendo character. And that was kind of my thought. And I never took them out of the packaging or anything. It's just kind of left it that way. And then, I had filled up this whole wall behind me. I push pinned them to the wall. The whole wall's full. And then all the extras I was getting were just stacking up somewhere, and I had no spot for them. And I was like, this sucks. I don't even care about these. So I took them all to the store, made a huge post, got a ton of likes, so, and then we sold easily half of them already. Mm-hmm. And the other ones, like every day we sell a couple. It's crazy. So I got rid of that. I'm slimming down. I don't know if you ever run into this. I don't know how your collection is, but I feel claustrophobic in my own space sometimes. That like I hate that. And so when I start to feel that way, I start to just look for things that like it was an impulse buy essentially. It came to the store. I'm like, this is dope. I want this at home, and then I'm like, I don't really want this anymore.
I kind of do the same thing. I'm like looking at my walls over to my left here with all my stuff. I have green screen obviously behind me, but I do that a lot too. And there's some things I've gotten rid of. I'm actually going to get rid of my Sega Nomad that is in the box, and I just put an LCD in it.
Oh, nice.
So the screen was actually good on it, and I was debating to myself, am I gonna upgrade this, or am I not? I like to tinker. I like to upgrade things. So I've been putting LCDs and Game Boys, and I was like, awesome. I have this Nomad here. I might as well do it. It's all complete in the box, and then I'm going to sell it online. Also my Game Boy Advance, I just upgraded same way. Yeah. I'm starting to slim down a little bit myself. I guess I don't play. I never play on my Game Boy or my Nomad anymore. I'm going to pop it on the TV. I want to see it on a big screen. So that's just me. I'm starting to slim down myself as well. And also I'm starting to get worried about like disc rot and stuff like that on games. So some of my rare stuff I might start moving just to get it out and about. Yeah, there's so many ways you can play this stuff now.
Yeah. Disc rot, that's something there's a lot of legitimate concern over. I find it's not too bad on any quality CDs that were made.
Right.
So like the PlayStation 1 stuff seems fine. Yeah. PS2 I think will be fine. Definitely see it in some early Sega CD and Sega Saturn. Mm-hmm. Definitely see it on 3DO, CDI.
Yes.
But for the most part, like it's not too big an issue, but I'm totally with you. Like it's just one of those things, it's like, yeah, you could back it up. I'm looking into getting one of the Dreamcasts that's modded with that GD EMU.
Okay.
So you can just like put an SD card with all your Dreamcast games ripped to it and just play that. Like that's ultimately what I'm probably going to transition to, not just for like ease of streaming, because I mean that's a big deal too. But it, like preservation purposes and not wanting to take my discs off the shelf, stuff like that. But
yeah, I have 2 Dreamcasts, and the disc drive's starting to go, so that one's definitely going to get that treatment. Plus, like, God, you can emulate everything now, even Dreamcast. I know we're Game Store guys, so I don't really want to talk
we're not
much
big
about.
emulation fans either.
Yeah, no, not big emulation fan, but I do have some stuff emulated. But I always prefer to play on the original hardware, and it's kind of nice even that some of these old systems are getting modernized with that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm going to be getting a Dreamcast with the GD. The GDEMU.
Yeah, I was looking at a few because I want to get an HDMI modded one at the same time then, and I was looking into that, and they sell for about $500, and I'm like, I had it in my cart, like I had one on eBay in my cart, and I was like, just think about it, man, when's the next time you're going to play a Dreamcast game? And then I was like, somehow my like more reserved self said, don't do it, and I did not buy it. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I had a little bit of control.
That's good. That's good. I see. if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it myself. I'll just mod it myself and save myself a little bit of money. So you don't have anybody at the store that does that sort of thing?
No, but I think we could get there. I know I could do it if I practiced it, and I know I could train my guys to do it. At least one of them who's a little tech savvy. He actually repairs all of our controllers for us, so he does like all the DualShock 4s and all that sort of stuff. And so it's possible, right now it's crazy. I just don't have the space or the time for it.
Gotcha.
I think about that a lot. Like if I was so busy, or if I had the time where an extra employee could go in the back and work on defective stuff all day, that'd be amazing. I'd love to have that, and fixing all these consoles. Cause I actually just put a bunch of defective consoles on eBay trying to sell through them, just get rid of them.
What are you selling?
Well, I got a box of 10 PS2 fat systems right now. Just sitting up there, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if those are worth it. Sometimes the time and effort.
Yeah, and I thought about buying some disk drives, or not disk drives, but even just like new lasers and just swapping them out. But they've got like that same sort of thing like a PS3 or 360 does, where there's like a motherboard that needs to be attached to that drive to make it work with the system. And so it's just something we haven't played with yet. Like PS3 drives we've swapped before. That's not too bad. It's not really fiscally responsible because you spend like $35-$40 on a drive. It's like, well, I mean, the PS3 is gonna sell for $100. So if you're already into it for $50-$60, it's kind of, there's not really a lot of money there. Not that you couldn't offer it as a service to somebody, especially the PS3, since you can't swap hard drives. People have a lot of attachment to their save data and stuff. But yeah, I would love to do that. Like, I don't know if I'd ever want to offer repairs to customers, but selling like customized Game Boys with LCD screens, like that's appealing to me. Not like, oh yeah, give me your crappy PS3 and I'll fix it for you. Like, I'm not really interested in that. There was a guy in the building that my store is in when I first opened. He used to repair 360s and PS3s. He made a whole business off fixing 360s. But he made a good comment one time. He said, it's like when you go to the mechanic though, he's like, people come in and they're always in a bad mood because they don't want to be talking to me. Like they're bringing their system to me because it's broken. They're unhappy. The best case scenario is I fix it for them, and then they have to give me their money, which they didn't want to pay. And so they're never truly happy, most people. And I thought that was a really good point. Like people come to our stores because they want to come in. If someone's bringing a system that's defective, they don't really want to be there. It's just a connection I have in my head. Yeah,
and speaking of like fixing stuff, like I started obviously fixing PS4s, Xbox Ones, that sort of thing. And what I was hoping I had this situation come up this week. I was hoping people would come in, maybe sell me their defective system, and I would fix it and then sell it for a profit. I'm seeing people want to buy a new system because their system's broke, but I just don't have any to replace it. I would love to buy broken systems off people and just repair them. I look for them on Craigslist and eBay and stuff like that. I look for the ones that would maybe be easy, where they turn on, but there's nothing on the screen. That's usually an HDMI port, that sort of thing. And you can usually get them pretty cheap, but even that's hard to come by right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just snatching up. There's other people that do the same thing. They buy broken ones and fix them and sell them. And man, I can't get systems right now. It's driving me bonkers.
Well, like even so those PS2s I put up on eBay, like I was watching defective ones sell for $20 a piece. I mean, we sell them for about 70. So if you're buying them for $20 a piece and you're spending $20-$30 to repair them, I just don't see where the money's at. Especially because with me, you're buying console only. I'm not even. I mean, I could throw in AVs and power cords because those are generic, so it's easy enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird, and like I don't know who's making money on this. I mean, if they are, more power to them. Like I'm glad it's not going into a landfill or getting junked. But I have in my store, I have these 4 tall glass cases, and they almost make like a hidden room behind them because they all unlock from the front. And so I've got them all kind of like in a square. Right. And behind that is where I hide all my defective merchandise. So like, it's almost like an Indiana Jones, like hidden tomb. You have to open it and then sneak back there. And I've got 40, 50 PS2s, I've got 30, 40 Xbox 360s. I'm like, I got to do something with these. Like they're just sitting here.
Yeah, I have to do the same thing. I always joke I could make a throne of all my broken systems.
Oh yeah.
But we have a hallway that goes to like where our dumpster is, and they're all lined up on the one wall of the hallway.
And I mean, they're organized,
they are, and like if it, we'll take one every now and then to use like a part off of it for like maybe cosmetically to fix like one that came in the store that works, but it's all junked cosmetically. So. We do that sort of thing with them. We'll just use them for parts. It's like our video game boneyard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like American Pickers, or like Rust Valley Restorers or something. Like you've got this, like this junkyard of systems, and I do sell them to customers sometimes. And if I sell them to a customer, I'll say flat out, like I'll sell them to you cheap. Mm-hmm. I will sell you all these decks $5 a piece. Like if you buy 20 of my PS2 fats, I will sell them to you for $100. I don't care. Get it out of there. It's not even about making money for me. Mm-hmm. It's about like knowing that they're worth something and not just giving them away for free. Like it's a mental hurdle I can't get over.
Yeah.
I know they have value. I can't just give them away for free. I can't just throw them away. Can't just give them to a recycler.
I'll have a guy every now and then come in and ask me if I have any broken systems. I'll sell them like that. I was like, how many you want? And he's like, well, how many you got? And he really only wants like 4 or 5. And
right.
Yeah, we'll make a deal and I'll sell them, a few.
So someone came in and bought some weird stuff. He bought like one of every defective system I had because you could tell he wanted to learn about it. So he bought like an original Xbox. He bought like a PS2, a GameCube, a Wii, and like just one of everything. And I was like, perfect, man. And I think he ended up spending $50. Like I'm just trying to clear this stuff out.
Yeah. That's a good tip for people. If you do want to get into it, go buy a broken system. Yeah. I'll sell you a broken system and then tinker around on it.
And here's the thing, like, and this isn't like a trick or anything, but here's how it works for us. So we're going to sell you, like, say it's a Wii. I'll sell you a Wii deck for $5 that's broken. If you fix it, you spend $30 on disk drive and you fix it, you also need some of the stuff that goes along with it. I have the power cords, and that's where I'm trying to make my money back is by selling the stuff that came with it. So like the remote, the nunchuck, the sensor bar, and all the hookups, if I sell those separately, I'll usually get my initial investment back. And that's really on a defective system what you're trying to do. You're just trying to get your initial investment back. And so I'll get that back if I sell those power cords to the person who buys it if they fix it. And you're still getting it cheaper than if you bought it off the shelf by fixing it yourself. So it's kind of like a win-win, I kind of think, for everybody. And it doesn't end up in a landfill, man. Like I don't want to see a bunch of systems just rotting away in the garbage,
Yeah, no, I hate to see that too. The next, let's move along a little bit. I was going to ask you, did you see the program Nintendo has with Microsoft, the Nintendo Insider, where they're like, it's like a program where you can call up and get help with your systems. The reason I'm asking is because on VGO, which is what this podcast is on, they were kind of like talking about it, kind of poo-pooing, like, why is this needed? But this podcast, most of the people that listen to us are hardcore gamers, so they wouldn't need it. But we, as game store owners, we see how dumb people are. The average person, and not people that are dumb, they just don't care. Like I just had a customer come in. It was a family. They didn't even know how to get on the eShop for Nintendo. It's like one of the easiest things, and I had to walk them through getting on the eShop. So I thought this was a good program from Nintendo, and I don't think people realize just how technically illiterate some of the people are, even when it comes to games. And it's like, it seems so easy to like you or I or any gamers that listen to this, but I don't think they realize just how much help some people need just to get online. Do you do a lot of that sort of thing with people coming into your store?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's bad. And I guess it's not bad. It's bad as in it happens a lot, but it's not bad as in a problem because it's a great opportunity to make a customer for life, and you can help them out. Like even simple things like we haven't done this yet, but I've come very close to just making a print off of how to sync Wii remotes and including it with every Wii I sell. Now the remote they get with it's synced up already. We make sure of that because that avoids 99% of headaches when you just do the simple stuff. But that's a common question, you know, and it's funny because you know, someone we chat with on Twitter a lot, shout out to, you know, Mike Untitled, he gets very you know, like he has a hard time, he struggles with like the average gamer and their understanding of situations, right? And I think it's because in his head, I think he thinks the average gamer's level of knowledge is up here.
Right.
And us knowing what we know, I think it's a little more down here. Like the average is different. Like, yeah, you've got people way up here that know everything.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the us's and the Mikes, and the you, the me, the Mikes, we're up here. The average gamer just, you know, the average, because it's not just the people playing the games, it's the moms, it's the grandmas. And I don't know about you, but my store, I excelled at GameStop, and I would assume you have the same mentality. Like you understood that the hardcore gamer only takes you so far.
Yeah.
What really pushes your business is the moms, the grandmas, the families. You have to widen that net. And so, but that also widens the amount and lowers the average understanding of everything of the typical person walking in the door, because now you have a bunch of people that don't know the industry at all. And so yeah, now you're in a whole new world of pain because you have to explain everything very differently. And when I first opened and everyone who came in was a hardcore gamer, and it was just like, hey, I don't have to tell you that when I repen an NES, the games still will act funny, even if they're perfectly clean. Sometimes you still have to wiggle them a little bit. It's going to be super tight. If you jam it in, rip it out, it's going to quit working. Like, you know, you don't, but now it's like, man, a mom comes in, wants to buy a Nintendo for her parents for Christmas. And I'm like, okay, here we go. You know, so you try to give the best rundown you can, but I agree. Like the average consumer knowledge is much lower than I think most people think it is.
Right. And shout out to Mike too. I saw him tweet the other day that he was like done with gaming and whatever. And I was like, you love games. I know you love games. You just don't like the gamers. Like
I did see that, and that was very accurate, and that was very good.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, they get frustrated with like, you know, when people have dumb opinions or whatever, but everybody has dumb opinions no matter what it is. So I
have a lot of bad takes, man.
Oh, I need to shut up and stay off social media. I'm terrible. I've become unhinged on there, and I've been trying to get better. It just brings out the worst in everybody, including myself. So
yeah, I'm with you. And it's, you know, it's a voice. It gives you a platform to kind of share your views. But you're right on with him about it, though. But there's a certain, like, I get it because I deal with it all the time, and I think I'm just used to it. But there's an ignorance and an arrogance that goes along in video games that's really annoying, and it's really obnoxious. And it's and also, I mean, I could go, this isn't just gaming, this is everywhere, but like this whole like idolization of people, you know, and how like this person writes for a magazine like a gaming site like Kotaku or Giant Bomb. I mean, like, my God, Giant Bomb are like the angels of video game heaven, you know, and they tell you, and they can do no wrong, right? And so, you know, they say something, and they're just guys, you know, they're just guys chatting. They say something, and all of a sudden, that's the truth. That is the way it is, and there's no like, there's really lack of free thought, and I don't consume like I started a video game podcast like 4 years ago. And I never consume video game podcasts. I don't listen to any of them. I don't really even listen to YouTubers or anything. I just always had my own opinions, and I want to share them. And like my co-host on my podcast, John, he's a postal worker. So all he does all day is listen to podcasts all day. And so like when he comes on, sometimes I'm like, man, like, is this your thought? Because he'll always say something like, oh yeah, I was listening to the Bombcast earlier and they said this. I'm like, just, you know, like, what do you think?
Yeah,
you know?
You have strong opinions. I have strong opinions when it comes to this stuff too. And I listen to everybody, but I still have my own, you know, thoughts. But I would listen to like guys like Pactor, you know. I like the business side of things. And half of the stuff that he says, he's trying to make these predictions. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen, or that's not going to happen. That might happen, but you know, I have my own opinions on it, and I've been fairly right on stuff. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like I predicted that the Switch would outsell the Xbox One. Everybody called me crazy. The other day I retweeted when I made that prediction back in like right when the Switch came out, and I just thought it was a great system, and everybody was calling me crazy. I've been wrong plenty of times.
But you gotta take your victory lap when you can, you know?
Yeah, I was wrong on the Wii. I thought the Wii wouldn't be that big of a deal, and it turned into be a huge thing. So I'm gonna throw myself under the bus on that prediction. But yeah, I don't know why, like you said, I don't know why people celebrate, you know, people's opinions so much, or they'll come in and they'll be like, oh yeah, this guy said that, and if you disagree, you know, sometimes people have attitudes, kind of.
Well, and the big one today, and it's not really gaming necessarily related, but the big one today is Penny Arcade. So I forget his name because I don't follow a lot of it, but one of the guys who used to work at Penny Arcade is basically dishing the dirt on them today and saying how they're all overworked and, you know, all this other stuff, and how they were told to hold back articles if it looked bad on a company that they had relationships with, you know, which is ultimately, we always talk about that, like gaming journalism's always been this weird, like they need each other, but we're each trying to get the most out of this relationship. So like game reviewers are like, well, we need the free copies, we need preview copies so we can do our job.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to be honest and open, and this company doesn't want to give us free games if we're going to shit all over their product. So like it's always been a weird, you know, relationship that way. It even goes back to the GameStop Game Informer days when, you know, GameStop owned Game Informer, and Game Informer was like, well, we want to write honest articles and give honest reviews. And there was a period, I mean, it's anecdotal just from my memory, but it was like a 3 or 4 year period when I was working at GameStop where I swear you could open a Game Informer magazine and not a single game got below a 6 or a 7.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, because that was their way of saying like, well, the game didn't sell super well, but it's still good. You know, like to me, for Game Informer, 7s became 5s. If a game got a 7, it was really a 5. And 8 was more like a 6 or 7, and then the 9 was the 9, and the 10 was a 10. You know, and so obviously, but they had a relationship too. And GameStop's got a relationship with these vendors. They can't have a news outlet like crapping all over the products that they're supposed to buy. You know, I mean, I get it. Yeah. But that's the new thing. So now all these people are reading those comments and saying, oh my God, now Penny Arcade was my favorite thing in the whole world. Now I can't watch them anymore because they're crappy too. Like, why is everyone crappy? And I'm like, well, if you really dig hard enough, everybody's crappy. Yeah. You can find something to be crappy, to hate someone for if you really look. Like nobody's perfect, and we all have different views on things. And I'm not saying that like some people who are horrendous like shouldn't be called out. I do agree with that. And I think like cancel culture in general is kind of like, well, yeah, man, if you got something to lose, you can't act like that. Like Kevin Hart can't, you know, he can't be controversial. Bill Burr, he can say whatever he wants because that's his audience and he's not afraid of losing them. You know, and it all depends on your audience. But the idea that so many people idolize Penny Arcade as this like, you know, they're the greatest, and then the fall from grace. Like, well, it's just a site. You should enjoy it while you do, and then if you don't like what they're doing, then you stop enjoying it. It shouldn't be like a disappointment, really. Why are you idolizing them anyway? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what are you playing though? Like what game do you want to shit on or say it's good? What are you playing?
So I'm balls deep in WoW Cataclysm. So I think it's one of the better expansions they've done, but I think World of Warcraft in general is the best people that made that game great are gone. So it's a bunch of people who are trying to find what made the game great and do the best they can. And I think overall it's disappointing. I did not finish Cyberpunk. I was cranking on that game. I had like 80 hours into it, and I just hit a wall. And I haven't played it in like 3 weeks.
I finished it, but I like mainlined it, so like I didn't get stuck on the side stories.
I should probably just finish it just to get the story or whatever. But I do like the side stories. My problem was I was trying to clear the map, and there's so much stuff to do. I was like, it was killing my love of the game.
I'll see you in like 10 years if you try to clear the map.
And I'm playing it on PC, so it's not like I can get a trophy anyway, so I might as well just forget it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back and finish that up. But no, it's pretty much WoW Cataclysm. I'm still playing some Warzone every Sunday night, you know, trying to do a little bit of that. And then you popped into live stream when I was playing Valheim, which is another survival game. It's whatever. You know?
Yeah, that's like actually on VGO in their Discord. They have a whole Valheim channel now. Everybody's like seems to be loving it, including Michelle, who's one of the main hosts of VGO. She's all into it. So what do you like about it? What's
Well, so I'm a sucker for survival games. So I've played, Minecraft obviously is the one that most people would probably think of, but like Rust, 7 Days to Die, DayZ back in the day. Like I love the idea of those survival games. Most of them suck. I never really played Ark. A lot of people love Ark as well. Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
The difference in Valheim is like if you don't eat and like first of all, there's no drinking, which is great. You just have to eat. And if you don't eat, you have a less HP pool, but you don't die from hunger. A lot of these survival games are really, really meticulous in their detail to like making you maintain hunger and starvation and being wet and being cold. Like in this game, if you're wet, your stamina regenerates slower, so it's annoying, but you're not going to die from it.
Gotcha.
Like, or you eat the wrong thing, or you ate a mushroom without cooking it, you're poisoned now. If you don't do this, then you're going to lose. None of that crap is in here. And then on top of that, you put it into a Viking folklore setting, and they give you a predetermined like set of instructions. So a lot of survival games, they just put you in the world, and the idea is to just do as good as you can, build a base, and survive with no overarching goal to achieve. This game right away says if you want to get back to Valhalla, you have to kill these bosses while you're here. And it sends you to like a summoning stone, says you can summon these bosses and fight them anytime you want. But then in doing that, you have to get better and make better armor, mine stuff, make a better base, all that sort of stuff. So it's just got a good flow.
That's cool.
But I'm not really, I like it, but I'm not.
No.
If it like say the server shut down tomorrow and I wasn't allowed to play it anymore, I'd be like, okay.
It seems like it's becoming a big thing. That's why I just wanted to get your take on it.
Apparently sold 2 million copies in 2 weeks. So
wow.
Good on that team. A friend of mine, actually one of my employees, David, he played it on itch.io for free because it was an alpha for like years, I guess. And he played it for hours and hours, said it was really good. And then finally when it came to Steam early access, that's when it like blew up. But it already had kind of a following, but But what about you? What's spinning in your machine?
Still Warzone a lot. Playing a lot of Call of Duty Warzone. Play that every night.
On that, by the way?
No, we never have. We need to.
We'll play that. We gotta figure that out sometime, man.
It's funny because I play with like the same 4 guys every night. Like usually, we hook up for a couple hours and just win a few here, lose a bunch. But we're addicted to it. Been playing the new Mario Bowser's Fury. Loving that on Switch. Actually quite surprised me. I thought it would be, just some dumb throw in. At first I thought it was just an add-on to Super Mario 3D World, and it's pretty much its own thing, which is nice. It's probably, you can beat it in about probably 6 to 9 hours, but it's pretty cool. I like it. Been playing that a lot. Just my PS5 in general. I was going back through God of War because it got the update where it's running at 60 frames per second. I love that game, and it's beautiful to play on the PS5.
Nice.
So nothing new except for Bowser's Fury. So I'm kind of a boring gamer at the moment.
I do want to play that. I never played 3D World.
Oh, it's a good game.
And I think my wife and I would have a blast going through it, because I don't think she ever played it either. And I know you could obviously do it to 4-player co-op. So yeah. I think that'd be a fun one to go through. 3D World's really got it right here. Nice.
3D World's a really good game. They only sold like 12 million of them on the Wii U. So it makes perfect sense why they ported it. Yeah, it's 4 players, and even Bowser's Fury, you can do 2 players, but the second player is really just like a helper.
Okay.
So it's kind of more set up for kids. Whoever the second player is Bowser Jr. in it, and they really can't die. They can just go around and hit enemies. So it makes the game super easy if you're playing 2 players.
Sure.
So nice. Might not want to play that with her, but definitely play 3D World. It's a great game.
Nice. Yeah, I just was like, I have it on the Wii U in my collection. I've always been like, I've always heard this is really good and always wanted to play it and just never got around to it. There is one game I'm looking forward to. It's on my list. Very short list. I don't know if you played it, but that Immortal Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, I actually did. I probably put about 5 or 6 hours into it. It is 100% a Zelda Breath of the Wild clone.
All right.
But it's very well done. They did a good job on it. But they even joke. There's even jokes in it making fun of Breath of the Wild. Like about weapons that break is one of the jokes.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. I really like it. I think it's an excellent game, but it is, it's Zelda with a Greek god theme.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm totally kind of over the being upset about games getting ripped off thing. I'm
no,
like,
I could
good,
care
who
less.
cares?
Yeah, if games rip off, that's great as long as it's good. I have no qualms or no. I could care less if they just do it good. Well, if you're going to rip off a game, do it
And
well.
just put it's like a cover, right? Like a good cover song is the original, the magic of the original with like your spin on it. And if it's like Breath of the Wild, but then your spin, your thing is the Greek mythology. Like, first of all, Greek mythology is awesome. So yeah, throw that on there and make like a Breath of the Wild, but updated after a couple years, less generic. And like, I like Breath of the Wild, but like less empty and generic. And
and it's so there's like two gods like shooting the shit, and they're like telling the story. And you're playing the story, but they kind of make jokes, and I think they did a really good job. I think the voice acting's good in it, and the jokes are kind of, I mean, they're silly, but they're kind of funny at the same time. So I mean, I would definitely give it a try, especially if you like Breath of the Wild and you're waiting for Breath of the Wild 2, which isn't coming out for a while.
Very long time.
yeah, which they just announced on that Nintendo Direct that they didn't even show anything, which is not a good sign.
No, I mean, I'm assuming they're going to do a Breath of the Wild one later, but I totally agree. And that's a whole other thing I could get into if we had hours upon hours. But the disappointment that Nintendo fans set themselves up for.
Yeah,
I mean, I watch all these predictions before a Direct, and I'm just every one of them like, you're going to be disappointed. You're gonna be, and then the real Direct comes out and shocker.
I always set the bar real low on my expectations for those. I can't stand watching them, for one, because like it seems like they directed towards an audience of like 10-year-olds, like the way they speak, everything like that, and it's annoying to me.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm with you. And I am a Nintendo fan. I love my Switch.
Oh, me too.
You can kind of see my Switch games behind me here, but like that's only, I don't know, a third of them on the top shelf there. But I love the Switch. I think it's a great system. I convinced my employees who were burned off the Wii U, who didn't want to buy a Switch because they were like pissed at Nintendo after the Wii U fiasco. I'm like, just get the Switch. Don't sleep on that. Like, I understand the Wii U was a disappointment, but like the Switch is not the system to sleep on. And they're both convinced. Like, they're both loving the Switch. And,
speaking of the Switch, that is the one system I can get in stock at my store. I for whatever reason, my distributor is fantastic, and I get Switches like no problem. So I'm selling tons of Switches, but that's it.
I have 3 Switch Lights in at the moment. Nobody will touch a Switch Lite.
Oh yeah, a lot of people do trade in Switch Lights because they're disappointed they can't hook them up to the TV. They're just not as if you're gonna buy one, just spend the extra $100. Get the big Switch.
Unless you're in Green Bay, come to Game Trade and buy a bunch of Switch Lights because they're great. You should come and buy.
Yeah, go to Game Trade and speaking of coming to Green Bay, this might be a good time. I'm gonna cut it here for video games. But anybody who is listening, if you want to, I'm going to throw this on YouTube. Me and Greg are probably going to start talking a little bit of NFL here. So I want to ask him some NFL questions.
If I could, really quickly before we take it away, I have a question for you, store ops related.
Sure.
So I know this is not really crazy, but you're a GameStop guy like me, or you were.
Yep.
So do you do any sort of like closeout at the end of the night? Like,
yes,
like register countdown closeout? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I do as well. I didn't do it when I was the only employee. Like, I would just count the register down to the base, like 300 or whatever, and then put that into a deposit, make notes of my deposits. But like, once I started having employees, I actually would count down and check every night, make sure the deposit matches what it's supposed to be. And recently I've seen a couple used game stores that don't do that at all.
Ooh, they're asking for trouble.
I know. And I'm like, I get trusting your employees to a certain regard, and you do, and you have to. Believe me, I mean, they have keys to a $1 million store. Like, it's a big deal. But I don't know. That's one of those things. I just feel like if you gotta keep track of it.
I've always done it because I've caught so many people over the years stealing, and even when I was with GameStop, I caught quite a few. That way, when you just see things that don't add up, and I'm an idiot. I'll be the first to admit I'm an idiot. I screw up transactions. So a good way to find them is at the end of the night when you're counting down. And you may have one of the things I tend to do occasionally is a refund where I forget to mark it as a refund and I actually accidentally sold something. So that will show up at the end of the night when you're double that amount off.
Yeah, that's super smart though. Okay, and your software, like you can go back into the transactions and look at that.
Yes, I can go. What software do you use?
We use a software called Wolf Track.
I've never heard of that one.
I've used it since I opened. Yeah, 10 years I've been using it.
Is it pretty good? You like it?
It gets the job done, man.
Does it do credit cards and all that stuff? And
it used to, but then when all the rules changed with like the ACH, like I don't know, whatever the rules were, where like you had to have the chip, and if you didn't have a chip, then they wouldn't cover you. So like after that, I had to get an external reader, but it used to do credit card processing right through the POS and everything. But
I use QuickBooks point of sale.
Okay.
We've used that since we've opened, and it's really good, but it also sucks at times. And there's times like I just recently had to upgrade it because if I didn't, my credit card service wasn't going to work with it anymore, wasn't going to be compatible. Now I could have went third party, but I kind of like having it all integrated.
I do too.
But it was a big pain in the ass. I had to upgrade the computers. Which the computers were more than overdue for an upgrade. So it's nice now that I did it, but I did have some issues getting it all up and running. But yeah, I've always used QuickBooks point of sale. But I can't imagine anybody not doing a closeout, to be honest. That's crazy talk to me.
Yeah. I found it weird too, and like the place I'm thinking of, and if by some chance he is actually listening, I don't think he is, but like I don't mean any disrespect by it, because he's a friend of mine, but he runs all of he has a third party credit card machine, and he runs all of them through the POS as cash. So every transaction in the POS says cash. So like you'd have no idea at the end of the night like what was card, what was cash, unless you took your totals from the machine, subtract them from the cash, and then. You know what I mean? So
is everything inventoried in the store? See, everything's inventoried. Everything has a different SKU in my store, everything like that. So, I would highly recommend, if he does listen to this, highly recommend. I had a relative of mine steal from me. So that worked for me. So I've talked about it before on the podcast. Don't trust anybody. And I tell all my employees that. I go, look, don't get upset if I double check like stuff that, I usually tell them the story of a relative who stole from me, and this is why I am like I am. I suspect everybody, and I usually make the joke, like my business partner over there. We've been in business. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. I say, jokingly, I do trust him. But we don't trust anybody, so we're always double checking. I've seen a lot of one of the other things I see by doing like closeouts and where you're off is somebody who will take a trade-in that's not really a trade-in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really common. What I always said in my GameStop days, and I say it now too, is I trust but verify. And that's just the truth. Is like I trust you guys. I do. I trust them to run the whole business when I'm not here for a whole week. But I will verify that was done properly.
I want to trust everybody. I would love to trust everybody. I feel real comfortable right now. Everybody that's working with me, I completely trust them, but I still double check everything.
Right. Well, and like, so the trade-in thing's a good, and we could probably do a whole podcast episode on this sometime, but like the way that people try to rip you off externally and internally. And internally, like I had a friend years and years and years ago, he told me a story that there was another used game store in town here. And that one day the police came to his house and said, hey, we were curious if you sold all of these games to this game store. And he goes, no, I don't go to that game store. Like I have a friend who owns a game store and I always go to his store. And so they went back, and one of the employees at that location had been falsifying trade-ins.
Yep.
But that store did not do inventory. They did not have their inventory on hand. They just, they had books, but you could basically say, hey, I bought these games for this much money. The money was always on because the records showed it was accurate, even though and you probably remember this actually. Do you remember? I know you'll remember the trade-in logs that game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The carbon copy papers, and everyone had to fill out. You default the amount, and they had to sign it. It was crazy compared to like now we can just digitize all that. But but that was a thing. So someone faked trades, pocketed tons of cash.
Yep.
And the business was just losing money and had no product to make up for it. And I don't know how they busted them. I think they just looked, and I think it was because the person did it so often that the people books and were like, this guy's sold us like $2,000 worth of stuff in the last 2 months. I mean, terrible. So then they ended up obviously
Yeah.
beating the guy and everything. But
Yeah, we had somebody similar when I worked at GameStop that was doing the same thing. And what was funny about that is they were trading in stuff they really weren't trading in, and they were putting another employee's name down that was doing it. So we actually thought it was the other employee at first, and then after doing some investigation, we realized what was going on. And the reason we caught it is because we were off on inventory. That's how that was caught, because they weren't really trading in anything. They were just saying they weren't taking the money.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, I've actually, John, who I do my podcast with, he was at GameStop for a long time as well, and he was there up until about, I think, 2 years ago. So he was there much later than I, and he told a story like that. But the person doing the fake trades was doing like new releases so they could get the most money out of it. And it's like, if you literally come into work and the computer says you're supposed to have a copy of like the newest Madden that just came out a week ago,
right?
You're gonna have that or not? Like that's
yeah.
Like a clerical error, a wrong trade or something,
Yeah, I had an employee one time that was doing like old Maddens and dumb stuff, that we probably wouldn't catch for a while, and we eventually figured it out. We caught him, but he was mad that he's like, really, you're gonna fire me over like the one thing? And we're like, well, this is the only one we caught. Like I can't trust you anymore. How do I know you didn't do 50 of these?
Yeah,
it's like it only takes one time. I don't care if it's like $1. Like I can't trust you anymore once that happens.
Yeah, well, and I'm really lucky too, because I've got my staff, they're bought into the business, and part of it is because I've told them like this store isn't just my future, it's all of our futures, and I really want them to take it over someday. And that even means me not being at the store level anymore, but also means like that they have ownership in it. And that's not like a carrot dangling thing either, because you could do that and you could get away with that for many years, but that'll catch up to you eventually. I want them to be owners. I want them to have like a future, if there's a future in this. Like that's still TBD, like I don't know how game collecting and used game sales will be in the market. Like we know this is probably the last generation of physical media, maybe with the exception of Nintendo. But you still have 40 years to go back. People will be collecting, I would say, at least for another 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's roughly off the top of my head. I mean, people thought it was going to die once the PS3 and 360 had digital games, and it's only increased since then. So, we really don't know, but I want to give them something, because they've been working hard, and I would love for them to be able to retire off of this someday too, not just like use it as an exit and like bounce out of there and like leave them hanging, And part of that though is so then they're bought into that strategy though. Like they understand that, like for instance, we had a game that, because I give them a 25% discount on anything they buy. And so sometimes though, if it's like a really expensive game, like say it's a $500 game and we paid somebody $300 to $350 for it, they'll look at it and say, well, I understand I can't take my 25% discount because that'll make it like, that puts us down to what you paid for it. But what if instead of 500, I buy for 450, would that be okay? And I'm like, that, like they get it.
That's cool.
It's cool. Like I don't really have to teach that to them. They had that kind of in them already. And it's just,
some of my employees are that way. I got one though that's not, but yeah, you can't win them all.
Well, exactly. And like I've talked to a few friends that own game stores, and like one of them, he's got an employee who he scours Facebook Marketplace looking for the best deals all the time. And like, he's always like calling around. He called me and was asking me, or because when we were doing curbside, we put our inventory online for the first time. Because I don't normally do that, but I did it in this instance. It was quantity, price, and title. And he went through all of my games and found anything that had spiked in price during COVID. And he was calling, asking me to hold it and buy it from me. Like just like one of those, like, it's just an innate selfishness, which, like, look, we're business owners, like, don't cry a river for me. I'm not trying to say like that we're all victims or something, but like the idea that that's all that was in his head was, how can I make money? And like, how can I get one over on these guys? Like I've gone to my friend's stores and I'll see something that's like way undervalued. Like, hey man, just a heads up, this is like double now. And they're like, oh crap, I didn't know that or something, and sometimes they keep it the same and sometimes they, adjust it. But, it's just like one of those things. I could have bought it, took it back to my store and sold it for double, but
yeah,
I don't know. Some people just don't have that in them. It's just, they're wired differently, and it's fine.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in games like that just, I don't know. That's part of the reason the prices are what they are. Cause you got guys that are basically operating a game store out of their garage or out of their basement, and they have like 40 Nintendos and 50 Super Nintendos, and I don't understand. Like, man, you can't be making that much money. I mean, maybe they are. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of work.
I think they are. You know, like I've got a guy out of Minnesota who contacts me every. I'm not even gonna talk. It was the guy that bought that huge lot from the Nazi and
yeah. You told us that story.
Yeah, so he messages me every now and then because he got that one really good score, man. He tasted like the awesomeness of a good score. And then it's like you need your next fix. So he's been just chasing, and for years now he reached out to me the other day and he's like, "Hey man, do you buy Pokemon cards?" I'm like, "Oh god, dude. You're getting into a world of pain." But no, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, you don't mess with Pokemon cards because those are super hot right now.
I kind of wish I had been.
Yeah.
Because, I was even talking to a friend who owns a card shop, and they're saying that like even their distributors are scalping to them now. Like you can't even buy a box. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, people were sending me pictures of just like empty shelves at Walmart. I used to deal in them, and then it just, I don't know, I got away from it because there were a lot of card shops around us that could just do it better. So I don't anymore. I kind of wish I did now because they're so popular.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine if we'd done in the last 10 years, you just had a bunch of old cards stacked up, and like the value that those things, like the way they magnified was insane. It was like GameStop stock.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, did you have any left GameStop stock?
Nope, I had to exercise all my options within like 90 days of leaving or something. So
gotcha.
It was weird because I sold mine and I ended up making like $3,000 or something at the time. And I remember it, like I put that was right after I left to open Game Trade, and I put that money into the business. And I think the end of that first year I had like $3,000 in my bank account. So I remember thinking like, holy crap, like this literally saved, like I was this close.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when you think about how close you are, it's scary. But I was like that close. But the GameStop stock saved me, saved Game Trade.
That was crazy. It's still pretty high. I mean, well, it's not where it was. It was like what, almost 450. I think it was one of the highest.
450. And when I checked last night or this morning, I think it was down to 40. So it's tumbling on down.
Honestly, it should, in my opinion, it should probably be like a $15 to $20 stock.
Yeah, and that's even being generous. I like 10 to 15 is about where it should sit.
Yeah.
But like I try to tell people, a lot of people don't know this, but when GameStop bought EB Games way back in the day, EB Games' stock was like twice as high as GameStop's, but they were hemorrhaging money. They were losing money as a company. They were not going to be around forever, but they had propped themselves up in such a way that their stock was worth twice as much.
Yeah.
It was not an indication of a successful company at all.
No,
stock price often doesn't reflect that. So,
no, I talked about that a little bit a few podcasts ago, and I was saying, they're definitely moving to more digital. The guy they have in charge now seems to be wanting to go that route. Yeah.
And that's one thing too. I just used it, so I'm like particularly irritated with it. But like how GameStop is still around in this digital age with their garbage website, I'll never understand. The way they ship, the way they offer their services, how that website performs, it's garbage. I mean, I don't understand, like compared to anything like Best Buy's super streamlined, Amazon obviously streamlined, even Walmart's site works super well. GameStop just sucks ass.
Well, I think they know that, and I think that's why one of the people they hired was from Amazon recently. So I think they're going, they know what's going to happen to them. And I'm just hoping, I don't want them to go away, but I want the store by me to go away.
Yeah.
Even though I like all their employees, if you listen, I'm sorry, but it'd be better for me if you were gone.
Yeah.
I love you guys, but
just move them across town. You don't want them to close, just move across town.
I don't want any of them to lose their job. Go to the store a little bit further away.
Well, I still say I'm surprised that Amazon hasn't just bought GameStop outright and turned all their stores into like pickup areas.
Yeah.
You could still have them take pre-orders on Amazon, pick up in the store at any GameStop location. I mean, they're down to what, probably 3,000 locations now.
Yeah,
or something roughly after all the closures. But even still, like having 3,000 stores.
Have you been inside one lately? Have you went to GameStop lately?
Yeah, I had a friend. They re-racked his whole store, so they were basically giving him all new marketing racks and everything. And I just went to town. he was putting them all, to be recycled, and so that I recycled them for him.
I went in one the other day, and they don't have much in stock anymore. They have a bunch of toys. At least the one here locally does.
It was rough, yeah.
Yeah, and what they're doing now, everything's a display box, and you take up the display box, and then they probably don't even have it in stock, and they try to get you to order it and ship it to your house. It's kind of weird.
It's very weird, and they don't even have display boxes out for everything.
No,
It's just like the top 200 selling games or whatever. So you could walk in, look through the whole shelf, and they wouldn't have a display box for something they actually do have, which really makes no sense. I mean,
it's hard to sell when it's not on the shelf.
yeah, and what I learned about my store from GameStop was that they had done studies in the 2000s that said when a game is bookended or spined, it sells less than when it's faced out. Just that's common sense anyway, but that's the truth. And so now they're not only are they spining it, they're just taking it off the shelf. So like, what's the chances of selling a game once you don't even have it bookended? I mean, it's zero.
Well, yeah, and there's a good percent of people that just don't want help. They want to go and find their game and they'll bring it up to you. They don't want help. There's a lot of people like that.
Yep.
So
yeah, I totally agree. But anyway, sorry. So I totally sidetracked it.
No, that's okay.
But now it's football time. So
okay. So I'll say this once again. I'm gonna move I'm gonna put the football part of this on YouTube. And anybody that wants to listen, if you want to go to my YouTube page, it's youtube.com/CCGameCEO. So Greg, what happened? What happened with your Packers?
Oh God.
You told me I could ask you that.
Here's what happened. That Bucks defense, my God. I mean,
their defensive line is no joke.
Their defensive line is no joke. And until I watched the Super Bowl, I was more pissed at the Packers offense. After I watched the Super Bowl, I'm like, okay, the fact that they put up that many points and that they stayed that close, I'm actually impressed with how the Packers did. But man, it's painful. You know, I mean, that's like 3 NFC championship games, back-to-back NFC championship games. And they get routed by the 49ers, you know, last year. And then this year it's like, I know it sounds crazy, and I try to, you know, ground myself always, but I had it in my head they couldn't lose, man. I had it in my head they couldn't lose. I went there. My head was like, they will not lose this game.
You're a Packers fan, so I understand that. See, I always have it in my head that my team's going to lose because I'm a Browns fan. So
yeah. Well, but don't get me wrong. I saw it in my head though. I saw the Tom Brady takes the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl and wins it again at 400 years old or whatever age he is now. Like, who cares? But I just saw the headlines, right? And I saw it, and I saw in my head, like, this is what's probably going to happen. And then sure enough, you're watching it in real time. And oh my God. And Rodgers played lights out this season. Devontae, lights out this season, man. I mean, you can't play better than that. I mean, I can't criticize anybody really on the team. I mean,
yeah, it just happens. Sometimes
that's just brutal. And
any given Sunday, you know, somebody can win.
Totally true. And I will tell you, it was a treat watching the Browns go too. And like watching the Browns in the playoffs was awesome, man. Like,
dude, I thought it was funny actually on my podcast. I gave the Browns about a 0.001% chance of beating the Steelers in the playoffs, and they did it with no coach and missing all kinds of players and coaches. I couldn't believe it. It was unreal.
It was awesome. I can't imagine the elation you had, like watching them win that game. That must have been just like crazy night for you.
It was great. Well, I went over to my cousin's house, and we had a couple guys there. You know, we stayed 6 feet apart, all that good stuff. But we were watching the game, and there was one of them that he always comes late. And they were like betting on when he's going to show up. And they said, probably end of the first quarter. He walked in the end of the first quarter, and to see his reaction, because he had no clue what the score was.
He had been okay.
And he's like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, is this real life? And we're like, yeah, because it was like 28-7 at the end of the first quarter. And it was just unbelievable. Everything went their way. It was fantastic. And it was like to beat the Steelers too was just extra because God, they kicked our ass for the last decade, and it was just great. So
yeah, all you hear is about that Steelers and Ravens dominance of that division. Like you don't even get to be the second best team in the division. Usually. You know, you're duking it out for third or fourth place.
Oh, it was fantastic. And even, I mean, we legitimately had a chance to beat Kansas City too. If it wasn't for the worst rule in football that reared its ugly head. I really hate. So I should explain to people, Browns guy right before the half looked like he was going to score a touchdown, gets hit illegally which isn't called. Helmet to helmet. He fumbles. The ball goes into the end zone and out.
Yep.
And that's it's a touchback for Kansas City. Which I hate that rule. I've hated it even before it happened to the Browns. It makes no sense to me why, if you fumble in the end zone, the other team gets the ball if it goes out of bounds. Or if you fumble anywhere else in the field and it goes out of bounds, you just get the ball where you fumbled.
Yeah, what I've always thought about that rule, I totally agree with you on that rule, and maybe there is some deeper meaning to it that I've just never heard explained. But what I don't understand is why they don't just rule that a penalty, like kicking out of bounds on a kickoff. If you fumble out of bounds the back of the end zone, instead of being a touchback and the ball changing hands, why isn't that just like a 15-yard penalty or something? You know, like then you're still getting penalized for it in the rare occasion that it happens, but you know, you're not like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like the extreme that's so extreme. I mean, especially when you're that close. I get, you know, to scoring.
When you fumble in your own end zone, like say a punt goes over your head and you kick it out of the back and the other team gets the safety. I understand that one, but when you fumble going into the end zone, you're supposed to score. I just think you should get the ball back where you fumbled it, or maybe make it a penalty. Maybe, you know, put it back like 15 yards or something.
I mean, if there's a reason for punishing it, you know, like if there's some reason that I don't know about where it's like, oh, the reason they do it is because in 1947 some guy kept cheating by fumbling the ball to the end zone or something. I don't know.
There is no reason other than they say the end zone is a sacred area, and you know, I have a feeling they're going to change that rule this year when they get together and meet because of that. It was so high profile in the Browns Kansas City game.
Well, if it happened to Tom Brady, they would have changed it already. But since it's the Browns, they got to take a season or two to run it through the committees.
So were you rooting for who? Did you care who won the Super Bowl? Or
I didn't even watch it, dude. I didn't watch it.
You were that. Oh, I
mean, I'm not. Now, don't get me wrong. I shouldn't say that. I started to watch it, and then it was clear. Like, first of all, it wasn't a very exciting game. Really low scoring in the beginning. Well, not much happening, and then. Like when Tampa Bay ran away with it, I was like, I mean, this game's over. Like it was over in the start of the third quarter. You know,
I thought Kansas City would win. To be fair, but I guess I downplayed how big of a loss Kansas City lost two of their linemen. They were without two of their starting.
I hadn't heard that. Okay.
Yeah, they were missing two of their starting linemen, and going against that Bucs defensive line, just. Wasn't going to happen for him.
What did I hear? Like Mahomes was rushed like 29 times. He was pressured or something like bananas. Like the number was twice the highest of like all time.
And also when the Browns played Kansas City, we hurt him and his foot's messed up.
Oh, so okay, sure.
He couldn't move as good as he normally does.
I was wondering about that because I really was surprised he didn't just take off half the time. But
well, he got hurt when the Browns played him. He got hurt twice. He hurt his foot. And he couldn't move all that well. And then we took him out of the game in the third quarter. Our guy hit him.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't even a bad hit. He just like fell weird, and he got taken out of the game. And that's when I thought we legitimately had a chance to win. And our defensive coordinator, who runs the same defense literally like 95% of the time, Joe Woods. Runs his soft zone all the time. We only rushed 3 or 4 guys every play, and came back to bite us.
Well, I can talk to you about defensive schemes and why somehow Mike Pettin on that last play of the half.
Oh my God, that was one of the worst calls I've ever seen.
A single coverage with you got the fastest dude, and they tried that play earlier, and he like underthrew or overthrew him. Yeah. And they did it again. And Brady, I will say this about Brady. Like, he is an excellent player. And I know the hate for him is fine because sometimes when you're witnessing like a high level of play, it's easy to crap on guys like that. So it's fine. LeBron gets a lot of crap. Jordan got a lot of crap. Kobe got a lot of crap. It's fine because the expectations are so high. I will say, though, Brady was dropping dimes, dude. Like the accuracy he was showing against the Packers, except the 3 interceptions he threw, which looked abysmal. He was just putting it on guys, man. Like he was lobbing it up. It looked like it was slow motion. I'm watching it like, good God, this guy sucks. Yeah. And it just drops right in the perfect spot. Like that dude made a deal with the devil sometime in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's bearing its fruit. I don't know where he's going to burn and for how long, but I'm just telling you, like he sold his soul somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, some guys too. Like you just pray. Like I'll be honest. Like when the Browns played the Steelers in the playoffs, Roethlisberger was off. So you just pray that you get a day where those guys are off, and it happens. Sometimes sometimes they're a little bit off, and usually though the Steelers or Patriots or teams like that, they usually can still win when their guys off.
Mhm.
But when they're on, you're in trouble. And
Yeah.
he was on. And in that call, let me give anybody who's an NFL fan, don't hire any former Browns guys to be your coaches. I'm sorry, Mike Benton. He was bad in Cleveland, so it does not surprise me. That was one of the dumbest defensive calls I've seen in a while.
But besides that, they were completely unprepared because they just assumed they were going to kick the field goal or punt it, and then all of a sudden, then the offense trots back on. You could tell the Packers were lost. They must not have had a timeout, or if they had one and didn't call it, that's another flub anyway. But you're just watching this, and then Kevin King, who has had flashes of brilliance as a corner, had the worst game. He got toasted like 5 times, and I'm just the whole time going like, man, this guy, you got Jair Alexander, who is practically a shutdown corner all year, and this is what you came up with. You got Chandrick Sullivan, you got Kevin King just stinking up the joint, and. It was brutal to watch, and yeah, there were obviously some penalties that should have been called that weren't. But man, the defense stepped up when they needed them to, and the offense they did as good as they could. I mean, we lost Bakhtiari, that all pro, just number one O lineman, that hurt. Years to come, he's gonna be great. He's out. He's like the most trusted guy. Like you could tell, because there were a few plays when people were surprised that Rodgers didn't take off. He's like, he had this wide field, and you're watching the replay, and you're like, dude, you could have got that first down. But I'll tell you, when you're under pressure all the time like that, he must have thought he was always a second away from being sacked.
Yeah.
When you don't have that trust anymore, you play differently. And he looked like a little rabbit, kind of jumping around and hopping around. Like he wasn't like when we were, what game was it? Was it against the Rams? Okay. And I know maybe you did watch the game, but if you didn't, there's a part where it's 3rd and 13. And on from the 4-yard line, they're backed up. The Packers are backed all the way up. Rodgers gets in the shotgun, gets the pass. He's sitting in the end zone, right? For 4 seconds, he doesn't move in the pocket. The pocket looks like it's about to collapse on him. And I'm going, dude, this is a safety if I've ever seen one. He hangs in the pocket long enough, launches a dart to I think it was Tunyon, right over the middle, gets the 15 yards, gets the first down. And I'm just like, that was 1 second away from being sacked. When you watched him play against the Bucs, he did not have that calm. He was not comfortable in that pocket. If that had been the same game, he probably would have been sacked because he was expecting it, as opposed to being 100% confident in the line like he was against the Rams.
Yeah, see and that hurts you guys losing that lineman, especially against the Bucs defensive line, who's no joke. Yeah. Speaking of defensive linemen who are no joke. What about J.J. Watt? Where do you think he's going?
Oh, man. Okay, I guarantee, I'm calling it right now, he's not going to the Packers. I would love to see it. The Packers are up against the wall cap size anyway.
Yeah, I think he wants to go to the Packers personally.
Yeah, he's not going to sacrifice the money to go to
Right.
But if he signed for a 2-year deal, realistically, I think the Packers are going to lose probably Aaron Jones, maybe even Jamal Williams also. They might let them both go if they can't get them on the cheap. Aaron Jones hurt his value by getting hurt in the NFC Championship game, and then the crucial fumbles and I don't want to rehash it. Yeah. So his value went down, but Aaron Jones is going to get paid somewhere. He is a good back. He's super fast. He's explosive. Someone will pay him way more money than he deserves. Probably the Jets or the Raiders or Miami. One of those teams is going to pay too much. And he's a good guy though. All power to him, man. I'd love to keep him, but whatever. So they might have room for that. They're talking about restructuring Rodgers' contract, give him all of the money left on his contract as a signing bonus, free up $20 million in cap space. It's possible, but man, they would be selling themselves. They'd be selling their future after next year down the road. I mean, I don't know if this team and this management's ever been like that. I mean, obviously, the new GM. I don't know. Mark Murphy's the team president. I don't think he's going to play like that. They've always played it low and slow. They'd rather get to the NFC Championship game every other year than win one Super Bowl and then not make the playoffs for 10 years.
I'm trying not to get excited, but I really want him to come to the Browns because, good Lord, we could run our stupid defense where we only rush 4 guys when you have Myles Garrett and J.J. Watt.
Yeah,
and it would work. But I think I read the rumors every day. They say he's interested, but he's not signing. I've heard he's interested in the Rams as well because he wants to be an actor and he wants to go out to LA. So I don't know. We'll see.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, those all seem more realistic to me, but I mean, I of course I imagine it. And like I was reading some statistic that said Za'Darius Smith on the Packers, he was double teamed more than like any other like pass rusher all year. So you get someone on the other side of him to free up one of those 2 guys. I mean, my goodness. I mean, you would think, especially shut down corners, that would take care of it. But
Myles Garrett was double teamed almost all the time that he was out there. But he was unbelievable, and then he got COVID, and he was out for like 3 weeks. And then when he came back, he wasn't quite the same player. They had to take him out quite a bit. You could always see him on the sideline trying to catch his breath.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that really hurt us because the way we ran our defense is, I told you 90% of the time was soft zone, and you hoped Myles Garrett got to the quarterback.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was it.
Well, I was just going to ask you, so is your nightmare scenario all the Watts playing together in Pittsburgh? Is that your scenario?
Yes and no, but I don't think the Steelers do not have the money to sign him. And I guess there was some report out there that said he doesn't really want to go to the Steelers. So could be wrong. I mean, that would be crazy. Could you imagine all the Watts on one team? TJ Watt and JJ Watt would be pretty vicious combo too, to be honest. I mean, the thing is the Steelers, they were pretty good. They lost Bud Dupree, and TJ Watt wasn't really a factor once he went down. So, it's interesting. They're still going to be really good, the Steelers, but it'll be interesting. I guess they're trying to say to Roethlisberger, you have to either restructure or retire. So it'll be interesting to see. They have a lot of problems, and it's good to see. I'm glad to see the Steelers having problems for a change.
Now, was there anybody, because I have one in particular, besides Tom Brady, was there anyone on the Bucs team that you were disappointed to see get a Super Bowl ring? Personally, Ndamukong Suh is probably my least favorite players. Yeah. An overall general piece of garbage human being. I mean, I got to witness him stepping on Packer players' groins and stepping on Rodgers' calf, like when plays are over, trying to hurt him. So what a nice fellow, though. I'm glad he got his Super Bowl ring.
I honestly didn't care. When the Browns were gone, I rooted for Kansas City because they had Marty Schottenheimer, who just passed away, as their coach, and they had Joe Montana. And my initials are KC, and I love their uniforms. I loved everything about Kansas City. So I kind of rooted for Kansas City, and I kind of wanted them to win, but it doesn't bother me. I really didn't have a player that I hate. I know a lot of people hate Tom Brady. I don't like seeing Tom Brady win another Super Bowl, but it's also, for me, it's kind of funny. It really hurts Steelers fans to see Tom Brady win another Super Bowl because Tom Brady knocked them out of the playoffs so many times. So to see all my friends that are Steelers fans just like implode to see Tom Brady win another one, it's actually kind of funny. Even though I don't like Tom Brady. Geez, just think, how much better would your life be personally, though, if Tom Brady was born without a right arm?
Oh, man.
I saw. How many times has Tom Brady screwed other teams?
Yeah, or crushed their dreams,
Yes.
And I agree with you. Actually, I like KC, and I know sound dumb, but I've always liked Andy Reid. I thought he was, good in Philly, and I always liked his teams. I liked his offensive style. I always liked that. So to see him, when they won last year, I was like, okay, good for you, man. I'm happy that he got him.
Until he won last year, a lot of people would compare him to Marty Schottenheimer too, because I can't speak. Marty was always the guy who got close but could never win it. He got close with the Browns, could never win it when he was out in San Diego. He got close when he's in Kansas City. He got close, but he could never win it. And Andy Reid was that guy until last year.
Yeah. Well, and so I when I talk about football, like the reason I love the sport so much is because the ultimate team sport, right? Like you have three facets of the game. You have special teams, offense, defense, that all three have to be firing on all cylinders for you to essentially win. Every now and then you run into a team that defensively so overpowering the offense can totally stink and like it's fine. But like for the most part, all parts of the team have to be good.
Yep.
And so I get frustrated because Packers fans especially, their expectations are Super Bowl or bust. If you don't win the Super Bowl, then your team was a waste of time. And that's crazy. Like it's fun listening to you talk about the Browns because your expectation is that they won't win. So when like your expectation isn't that they're even going to make the playoffs, right? Like you just want to watch a couple good games, I
just wanted to be competitive for the longest time.
Yeah, and you got to see him go to the playoffs and beat a division rival to advance in the playoffs and then to be hanging in the game. Like that, you look at that season as a total win, I assume. Yeah. Like, right, you're just like, this is one of the best seasons I've ever seen. I'm super happy. If the Packers do that, they get to the NFC Championship game, they lose to a defense that is bonkers, lights out defense, and they're a garbage team. And like here's one thing to think about. I know you don't. You're a Packers fan also, I like you're adopted Packers fan.
Yeah, I like the Packers.
So when the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010, that the playoffs of that, I don't know if you remember this. So this is how the Packers got into the playoffs as the final seed. The Giants kicked off to the Eagles to Deshaun Jackson. They weren't supposed to kick it to him because he's a threat, and they kicked it. The kicker kicked it right to him, and he runs it back for a touchdown. Eagles win that game. Packers go to the playoffs. That's how close they were to Aaron Rodgers never having a Super Bowl victory. Wow. One play away from him not even getting to the playoffs that year, let alone winning the Super Bowl. So, like, that's this game, though. Any given Sunday, like you said, I mean, they call it a game of inches, not just because, you have to get yardage and gain and get the ball down the field. Like, it's the tiniest thing. It's one finger touches the ball, changes the trajectory, gets intercepted. That's the end of a game.
Yep.
I mean, all those things, and that's why I love this game. But the expectation, like, of Packers fans, because we've been blessed with amazing football for 30 years. I mean, 30 years, man, of awesome, watchable football. Like, everyone's expectations are way too high, and so now it's hard to be a Packers fan because like people are so obnoxious about like what their expectations are.
Well, I would say there's a little bit the opposite. Obviously, we've been beaten down for so long, so a lot of us are just happy to be there. But there is some Browns fans that are starting to get greedy. And,
oh no!
Yeah, and we're starting because they've had a little success. So I am starting to see the people that are like, oh, we better win this year, Super Bowl, or bust. And man, I'm just glad they're good and. I am so excited to just watch them. And speaking of which, we have the matchup of the century. We got the Browns coming to the Packers this year.
Man.
So I'm going to have to make a trip up there.
Dude, that'd be awesome. I'll get us tickets. If you make the trip up, I'll cover the tickets, man.
I will definitely make the trip up. I want to watch. And I want to get the Packers experience. I've never been to Lambeau, so I'm excited. I think it's one of the coolest stadiums there are.
When is the game?
I don't know if there's even.
Please tell me it's October or September.
I don't even know if there's a. Did they release a schedule? I think they just released the opponents.
Oh, sure.
So I don't know if there's.
Yeah, it's to be determined still.
Yeah. Exactly. It's to be determined.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's earlier in the season because I will tell you. Now there are some things that are really magical. One of them is Lambeau on a Sunday night. When the snow is coming down and you look up and you see the snow and the lights and everything, it's really pretty. But the cold, because Lambeau Fields has grandfathered in their garbage seating, which is literally metal benches. And I don't know about you, man. I got every seat is like this big, that they're all numbered, right? I'm like, I don't know about you, but that's like one of my cheeks. That ain't both of them. So you're all huddled up and just crunched in. And then you got people spilling beer on you, and the beer's like $15. It's crazy.
That sounds like Ohio State. They have those stupid benches.
But going in like December, like when we hit the negative temperatures this week, like we're -9, -10, it would be like I would like the concrete sucks the heat from underneath your shoes, man. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like your feet start freezing because the concrete just soaks all the heat right out of your shoes.
I went to a Thursday night game between the Browns and the Steelers, one of the coldest games I've ever been to. And like I didn't even want to sit because it was like sitting on ice. So like we were standing a lot. And I remember my brother-in-law ordered a beer and it froze before he could drink half of it.
That's crazy, man.
And I'm like, yeah, I try to avoid the super, super cold games anymore. I'm just not going to go. But I want to go. I hope it's earlier. That would be great. I would love to come up there. Let me ask you something. Like, are the fans, like, are they rude? I would think I'm just going to say before you even say anything, I would think Packers fans are one of the friendliest to other teams.
Yes. So my experience is always like that most people are pretty good. Like I went to, this was 2 years ago, I think I went to when the Dolphins came to Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one guy who was sitting on the aisle and he would jump into the stairs and he was on all Dolphins gear. And every time like the Packers made a mistake, he was up there and he would like turn around to the stands and be like, "Oh yeah, look at your Packers. Oh yeah." And he was just taunting him the whole time. So eventually the Packers won that game and like something happened at the end, I forget. And it was hilarious and everyone was taunting him and laughing at him and making fun of him. So I felt kind of bad because obviously he got his. So I don't really feel bad. But no, for the most part, really welcoming, man. Like you could sit next to a Packers fan, you could probably bullshit the whole time and it'd be fun. You know,
yeah.
See, for the most part, it's pretty good. I mean, you always get drunk idiots, but I'm just as embarrassed of them as as anybody else. Like just a bunch of drunk morons, you know.
I know a lot of people were like, I've actually, when I've been at Browns games, I've been next to fans from the other team, and I've had like one guy ask me, he's like, am I going to get shit on because, you know, I'm wearing this? And I go, no, as long as you're cool and not a dick, nobody's going to bother you. And that's usually the way it is. I've seen Bills fans come in and act a jerk and people have thrown stuff at them, and, you know.
Philly throwing batteries at people, man. Like,
yeah, I go, but as long as you're not in the dog pound kind of gets its own little reputation. But as long as you're not a jerk at the Browns games and you're a fan of the other team, people will leave you alone. If you just cheer. But if you're running up and down the aisle, rubbing it into everybody, you're probably going to get something thrown at you.
Yeah, nice. But no, I think it's a pretty good experience. People are pretty nice around here for the most part, you know.
That's cool. Yeah, I want to come there. I want to check out your store. I want to go to a Packers game. That's like my I'm going to make it happen if it's doable.
Dude, I hope so too, and I think it'll be great. It'll be awesome.
But we've been talking forever, so I think I'm going to end it here. My wife's texted me like
I know I always drag you on too far.
No, you don't
get talking. I love.
I can talk to you for all the time. So thanks again for coming on. Yeah, I definitely would love to come on yours and chat with you.
Yeah, I got that 200 coming up. I'll talk to you. I'll message you about that and see logistically what I'm thinking, because it's like I think I'm like 3 episodes away. And I've been trying to do them every week, but it's every other week occasionally. So yeah, I'll hit you up about it. All
right, cool. Well, thanks, and I look forward to seeing the Browns go against the Packers next year.
Man, it's going to be awesome. Dude, a Browns-Packers Super Bowl would just be, dude, I want that. I want that as much as you want that almost, man, I'll tell you. So
that would be awesome. So
appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on as always.
No problem. See ya.
See ya.